News.
Across the state, law enforcement is reporting an increase in shootings.
Renee Cooper sat down to discuss with the concerns with Western North Dakota's largest agencies, who explain this has been on an upward trend for a few years now.
We got to get a handle on this.
Bismarck Police Chief Dave Dreyevich says officers responded to 7 shootings in the capital city in 2020 compared to none the year before. And 3 of the 2020 instances were just in December.
Only one so far here in 2021, but it's still very concerning to us.
And unlike the majority of shootings in the last couple of years, this one was fatal for one of the 2 victims.
Where we're seeing the most violence is coming from people that are not from North Dakota. There's not a lot I can talk about the most recent homicide, but those people were shooting indiscriminately. They weren't, they were just plain old wanting to shoot people, and thank God nobody else was hurt.
Devontae Evans and Kevin Hartson, both charged in the murder of a 26-year-old Bismarck man, are from Detroit.
There is most oftentimes a drug nexus with these shootings.
We've had several of those. They're just really difficult to work. A lot of times in these cases, they don't want to talk to us because there's always that underlying other offenses.
Lieutenant Pat Howe with the Mandan Police Department says it doesn't show so far in 2021, but major violent crime has climbed over the last 2 to 3 years, including shootings.
I think we've only had 1 or 2 this year. Last year we were probably in that roughly 5.
In Minot, shootings quadrupled for the PD from 3 in 2019 to 12 in 2020, with 1 so far in 2021.
For many years we had drug problems in our community, but we didn't have violence that came with it. Now we're starting to see that violence that was typical across the nation, but foreign to us in North Dakota and Burleigh County.
Burleigh County Sheriff Kelly Lieben says it used to be that the Bismarck Police Department would see higher instances of violent crime due to the lower population throughout the rest of the county. But these days, he says it's more comparable, with 1 murder in both 2019 and 2020.
We've gone many years out in the rural areas of Burleigh County where there hasn't been a murder. So then for us to have to investigate 2 of them in back-to-back years, it does make you stop and say, what's going on out there?
He says Burleigh County deputies deal with more local-on-local crime, but the Burleigh Morton Detention Center is starting to fill more and more with people from out of state.
We're happy to look for the large drug dealing criminals, the violent criminals that are coming here. But if we can stop the demand, we can stop that, all this goes away.
Chief Dreyevich says discussions with state and federal partners are ongoing to get to this core of the problem. Reporting for KX News across Western North Dakota, Renee Cooper.
Lieutenant Haug adds most often when crimes involving a gun happen, that weapon was obtained illegally, sometimes stolen.
He says this means North Dakotans need to keep their weapons locked up, even in their cars. He says a gun sitting on a back seat is just asking to be stolen.
Sheriff Lieben says crimes involving guns are often what get the most attention across the country. Meanwhile, other violent crimes have increased as well.
Chief Dreyevich says in Bismarck, aggravated assaults were up by more than 45% from 2019 to 2020. He adds more than 50% of those were domestic cases, which was a concern for the PD going into the pandemic. But drug crime adds to this statistic as well. There are fewer aggravated assaults so far this year than at the same time in 2020, 50 compared to 36.
So it's not a huge difference, but at least it is smaller. So when I looked at that, report for 2020, the statistics, that's a big number. We don't see that happen here. That's never happened here that I can remember where we've seen a big jump like that.
Minot PD has seen 13 aggravated assaults in 2020. At this same time last year, that number was 19, and by April of 2019, there had been 8. Lieutenant Haug says Mandan police saw between 15 and 20 more aggravated assaults in 2020 than the year before. He adds weapons like knives are becoming more common in these cases.
The body of a man